becoming the only profit-making tycoon film of the Kuomintang. Using an 800% return on investment to prove that, quote, content is king, it was adapted from a true story. The lawyer named Zhang Qi is played by Tan Jianqi. The story begins with a labor dispute. A worker is seriously injured while working, and the furious family comes to demand justice. They open with a demand of 1.5 million in compensation. However, the opposing lawyer, Qi Li, merely smiles faintly and calmly presents evidence. All monetary transactions were private transfers, and any so-called rewards are clearly documented. Therefore, it is impossible to prove the existence of a labor relationship between them. The opposing lawyer carefully reviews the documents and realizes the evidence is indeed unfavorable. At this moment, Qi Li skillfully begins to apply pressure. Everything has already been prepared. Later, we'll file for a labor capacity assessment. Let's see if they can afford it. Go detain the person. Oh, this is another case. The woman still tries to bargain, but Qi Li gives her no opportunity at all and turns to leave. The opposing lawyer immediately panics, hurriedly calling her back and telling her to quote an hourly estimate, exactly what Qi Li wanted. He pulls out an agreement from his pocket. Once it is signed, 300,000 will be transferred immediately. His boldness in forcing the price comes from his confidence in the Xiuan law firm, a top-tier institution in labor dispute cases. The woman is intimidated by the firm's reputation, fearing that she might not receive a single cent by the end of the lawsuit, and prepares to sign. But her lawyer tells her not to rush. Seeing that his prey is about to slip away, Qi Li increases the pressure again. Actually, I don't think the current program matters that much. I just want to make this case go public. In the end, the woman signs the agreement. But as soon as the other party leaves the meeting room, Qi Li's expression changes instantly. He clears away the water cups on the table, and on his way out, even takes a photo from the display cabinet. It turns out he is not actually a lawyer from this firm. His choice to negotiate here was merely to take advantage of the firm's reputation. In reality, he operates out of a tiny law office in an alley next to the courthouse, barely earning enough to get by. Taking cases according to his conscience like this is simply his way of trying to latch onto a large corporation and secure a legal consultant position. But unexpectedly, this carefully planned scheme fails once again. The other party burns bridges immediately after turning around. Handling labor contract disputes is not a problem for him. But when it comes to being hired as a legal consultant, the company has strict requirements for partner law firms. It seems that once again, all his efforts have been in vain. Sitting alone in his car, Qi Li is quietly dejected. At that moment, someone suddenly taps lightly on his car window. The girl is deaf. She tells Qi Li that her brother has been taken away by the police and asks him to help get him out. But Qi Li knows this is a job that won't pay. I can't help. I charge 2,000 per hour. Find someone else. What he doesn't know is that the seeds of fate have already been planted. That very night, his senior invites him to a meeting at a golf club, a place frequented by top lawyers from major firms. Qi Li values this opportunity to connect with higher-ups. But at that moment, his senior hands him a case, the very same case the girl mentioned earlier that day. The boy was scammed into taking out loans, and when the lenders came to his home to aggressively collect debts, he stabbed one of them in anger. Although the evidence is solid, the senior still hopes to secure a reduced sentence. The reason he assigns the case to Qi Li is simple. Since they are all deaf, Qi Li knows sign language and can easily gain the trust of the deaf. Qi Li initially intends to refuse, but thinking about his meager living expenses, he ultimately agrees. He goes to the deaf siblings' home to investigate. Old Ma, who runs the shop downstairs and is familiar with him, greets him warmly and hands him a stored water card. Qi Li often helps him with business matters by collecting such cards. Old Ma tells him that the girl's name is Zhang Xiaorui and her brother is Zhang Xiaocheng. Their parents passed away long ago. Now Zhang Xiaocheng has been detained, leaving Zhang Xiaorui alone, helpless and vulnerable. As he leaves, Old Ma gives him a bag of oranges and tells him to check on things at home. Though reluctant, Qi Li still goes back. His mother has long passed away, and his father is a bastard. As soon as he sees Qi Li return, he immediately asks for living expenses. Seeing that there isn't much money in Qi Li's wallet, his father threatens to show up at his law office. Qi Li has no choice but to grit his teeth and transfer him 1,000. On the way back to his law office, he happens to run into Zhang Xiaorui and discovers that she is using her deaf identity to scam money. He retraces the process of how they split the money, mainly to teach the girl a lesson and make her obedient. I can help your brother for free. Qi Li's attitude suddenly flips 180 degrees, leaving the girl completely confused. She suspects he has bad intentions, especially since she knows the government has already arranged free legal aid. Unexpectedly, just as he takes out his phone, the girl snatches it away. She deletes all the evidence Qi Li had just recorded and even throws the phone into the water. Seeing that Zhang Xiaorui refuses to cooperate, Qi Li has no choice but to visit her brother in detention. Zhang Xiaocheng recounts the entire incident in detail. At the time, he believed the scammer and mortgaged his house to invest in financial products. Not only did he fail to make money, but he also lost his home. Debt collectors came to his house and even beat his sister. Enraged, he stabbed one of them. The surveillance footage clearly captured the stabbing, making it extremely difficult to overturn the case. Qi Li can only start with the neighbors, hoping to find a breakthrough. After much effort, he hears that a family recorded a video at the time, but they refuse to admit it. They had all purchased financial products from that company and receive monthly dividends, so they do not want to offend them. Haven't you seen what happened to the Zhang family? You weren't you beaten by those renters? Qili also tracks down a place called Qihang Finance, which specifically targets deaf individuals. They trick them into mortgaging their homes through real estate agents, and then lure them into buying worthless financial products. Just as he is discussing a plan with his colleague, the police station calls. It turns out Zhang Xiaorui's scam has been exposed, and they ask Qili to pick her up. After getting her out, their relationship softens significantly. On the way, Qili takes her home. Just as he is about to leave, he notices someone blocking his path at the corner. Realizing the other party has bad intentions, Qili pretends to make a phone call. It's a tense moment, but thanks to his casual and composed demeanor, he manages to escape. Soon, the first trial begins. In court, the plaintiff's witness claims they did not attack anyone, and that Zhang Xiaorui fell down the stairs on her own. Then Zhang Xiaocheng suddenly went mad and stabbed someone. He refuses to listen. It is obvious he is trying to shift all blame onto others. But Qili is prepared. He takes out a CD footage from another angle of the incident. However, when the judge plays it, a sharp noise suddenly rings out. Qili lies, saying he brought the wrong disc, but in reality it is an emotional card he deliberately plays. He then presents the real footage while beginning to defend Zhang Xiaocheng. The video clearly shows them beating Zhang Xiaorui. At one point, one of them makes a gesture meaning, "I will kill you." Not only that, the video also captures Zhang Xiaocheng stabbing the attacker, but instead of fleeing, he tells his sister to call the police. Qili argues that this can be considered self-defense. More importantly, at the end of the video, Zhang Xiaocheng repeatedly makes the same gesture. He is shouting, "Help! Help!" The deaf boy sits on the defendant's bench. He did call the police, he did cry for help, but no one could hear him clearly. In the end, the court rules that Zhang Xiaocheng is guilty of intentional injury, but the sentence is only 6 months. For them, this is a victory. It also makes Qili completely famous in the legal world. His career takes off in the right direction, and his law office moves from a tiny secondhand shop to the city center. No one questions why the case was resolved so smoothly, until Zhang Xiaorui appears at Qihang Finance's annual conference, still holding a scholarship from Qihang Finance. From the audience, Qili continuously signals her with gestures, reminding her that immediate benefits are the most important thing. However, Zhang Xiaorui still publicly snaps the check in half. It turns out that night Qili did not escape after all. The other party took him to meet the boss of Qihang Finance. President Kim offers Qili a deal. Not only will he give him the on-site video footage from that moment, but he will also provide Zhang Xiaorui with a scholarship. Qili knows that even if he refuses, President Kim will simply find another lawyer. Since this is an opportunity to gain both fame and profit, why not take it? I have a cross-border project that needs a law firm as a consultant. I wonder if Li Lu is interested. Let's cooperate. But paper cannot wrap fire forever. On the very day the law office opens, Xiao Tang, who once struggled alongside him in the small law office, submits his resignation to Qili. After seeing the contract Qili signed with Qihang, he refuses to walk the same path. Qili believes the case had no chance of winning. By cooperating with Qihang, he not only secured a reduced sentence, but also helped obtain a scholarship. But Xiao Tang sees it differently. He believes Qili is doing everything for himself, using these poor people as stepping stones to climb higher. One is a realist who chooses the law of the jungle. The other is an idealist who treats the law as faith. In the end, they part ways on bad terms. Qili lives a life of comfort, indulging in wealth, while Xiao Tang begins learning sign language on his own, preparing to help deaf people who have been deceived. One day, Director Tong from the Department of Justice unexpectedly comes to visit. After seeing how Qili handled Zhang Xiaocheng's case, he admired him greatly. Recently, many people have been scammed by Qihang and lost their entire fortunes, yet they hesitate and are unwilling to report to the police. Director Tong hopes Qili can help persuade the victims to come forward. Sensing that Qili is unwilling to help, Director Tong stands up to leave. Qili thinks he can ignore everything, until he discovers that Old Ma has also been scammed out of all his assets and is now living in a public restroom facility workshop. Qili asks why he invested in that product. Old Ma, embarrassed, says he only wanted to earn money to move into a better nursing home, so he wouldn't have to die alone at home. As he speaks, he even takes out a water card for Qili. Holding it in his hand, memories of the past fled back. In high school, Qili was bullied by classmates simply because he was the child of deaf parents. In a moment of rage, he once planned to grab a machete and fight back. But Old Ma discovered it in time and stopped him. In the bowl of dry noodles old Ma treated him to, Qili found a rare water card. It was from that moment that he developed the habit of collecting them. After leaving old Ma's place, Qili gets completely drunk, but unexpectedly runs into Zhang Xiaorui. She is teaching other children how to scam money. Qili steps forward and starts lecturing again, but in Zhang Xiaorui's eyes, what Qili is doing is even more despicable than scamming. The more Qili speaks, the angrier he becomes, drawing the attention of passers-by. People mistakenly think he is threatening Zhang Xiaorui, so they surround him and beat him up. After regaining consciousness, Qili apologizes to Zhang Xiaorui. In truth, he used to be just like her, unable to let go of his pride, unwilling to accept donations from classmates. In the end, he lost both his dignity and the money. Looking back now, he deeply regrets it. After all, only when you have enough to eat can you afford to talk about dignity. At that moment, Zhang Xiaorui receives a video on her phone. It shows a group of people surrounding an entire courtyard, blocking everything so tightly that not even water could pass through. Qili realizes something is wrong and immediately takes Zhang Xiaorui with him to rush over. It turns out that Ms. Wu on the second floor, after being scammed into bankruptcy, wants to commit suicide using a gas tank. Qili presents himself to the police as a lawyer. He stands below the window, continuously flashing a flashlight. Seeing the flickering light, Ms. Wu slowly looks out the window. Qili tells her not to overthink things, that whatever she wants to say, she can say it. Ms. Wu finally reveals what she's been holding inside for so long. After being scammed, her family constantly scolded her, saying that a disabled person like her should be satisfied as long as she doesn't starve to death. But she also wants to live well. She also wants to wear a gold bracelet. To make money, she introduced many neighbors to buy financial products. Now they have all been scammed. She no longer has the face to confront them. Qili says he is willing to help Ms. Wu file a lawsuit and is also willing to help others sue. Seeing him make a vow in sign language, Ms. Wu smiles with relief. Qili finally lets go of his greed. Ms. Wu's death becomes the final drop of tears. Because before that, she had once come to Qili, wanting to use her gold bracelet as legal fees and ask him to help her file a lawsuit. If he had not refused her back then, perhaps she would not have died. This becomes the greatest regret in Qili's heart. To fulfill his promise, Qili decides to fight this lawsuit. But the other side is fully prepared. They have the most professional team of lawyers. Even Chairman Liao of the local bar association serves as their legal consultant. At first, Qili does not want to escalate the conflict too much. He proposes that as long as they return the house, the previously invested cash can be forfeited. However, the real estate company has already been bribed and claims it has nothing to do with them. They even publicly question Qili's professionalism as a lawyer. Chairman Liao knows that Qili has no evidence, so handling this case is extremely easy for him. Seeing Qili speechless before leaving, Chairman Liao does not forget to mock him, telling him to call any time if he needs anything. With the opposing side backed by a professional legal team, Qili fights alone. He thinks of his old friend, expecting him to refuse his invitation. But the friend agrees without hesitation, because he knows Qili is handling a case involving deaf people. Their first goal is to find more victims and have them testify, turning the case from a civil lawsuit into a criminal one. Only then can they apply to freeze the funds. Chairman Liao is well aware of this strategy, since the case can only shift direction with enough witnesses. All they need to do is prevent the witnesses from appearing in court. The night before the trial, a group of thugs storms into Qili's law office, holding iron whips and salt powder, threatening all the deaf and mute people present, warning them not to testify in court. They then dump the contents of a bucket over Qili. Fortunately, it is only powder meant to intimidate him. Seeing how ruthless the financial company's tactics are, the witnesses become terrified. That very night, they pack their belongings and move out of the courtyard. In the heavy rain, Qili tries to persuade everyone not to give up, but no one hears him. In the end, only one person remains, but Qili does not give up. The next day, he still appears in court as planned. During the plaintiff's presentation, Qili both speaks and uses sign language to interpret. He knows that relying solely on existing evidence is completely insufficient to bring down Qihang. So he takes the initiative to present the confidentiality agreement he signed with President Kim. This fake service contract was personally signed by me with President Kim. Under everyone's astonished gaze, Qili reveals the contents of the contract. President Kim gave me 300,000 as hush money, telling me not to continue investigating other deaf people who purchased Qihang's financial products, and used this to threaten me not to appear in court. He then produces the mortgage contract as evidence and applies to have the case transferred to the police. To verify the authenticity of the contract, the court requires the signatory to appear and testify. But this is precisely what Qili cannot do. He can only use a sign gesture to tell everyone that he has done his best. At that very moment, a sudden wave of noise erupts outside the courtroom. Other victims rush in together. It turns out that while he was explaining the case earlier, he was live streaming on site, using sign language to communicate with the victims. Since I was young, people called my home the mute house, so I desperately tried to escape from here, to prove that I was not like you. But I realized that everything I have was gained by pretending to be blind and deaf. He encourages the other victims not to be afraid. If they want justice, they can only fight for themselves and speak up for themselves. With Chi Li's encouragement, they finally achieve their goal, turning their civil case into a criminal case. Although they win the case, Chi Li's acceptance of bribes is also exposed. Director Dong greatly admires him, but the subsequent investigation must still proceed. Just as Chi Li is about to leave, applause suddenly erupts behind him. It is applause from the bottom of the farmers' hearts. And Chi Li responds with applause in sign language. Sound of Silence is a work released in 2025 by Tang Yuchen. Its greatest value lies in not creating a perfect, towering hero. Chi Li is not a good lawyer in the traditional sense. To cling to big clients, he can suppress prices against his conscience. To enter high society, he can impersonate another lawyer's identity. To gain both fame and fortune, he can sign confidentiality agreements with fraudulent corporations. He is cunning, sharp, practical, a completely ordinary small figure. But he is not entirely evil either. He helps Old Ma's business. Under the pretext of collecting water cards, he enters a room filled with gas at a critical moment, and when everyone else runs away, he stands alone in court. This kind of gray characterization makes Chi Li a mirror of all of us. Who has never compromised their conscience for survival? Who has never wanted to climb upward without hesitation? Who has never wavered between desire and morality? What makes Chi Li valuable is not that he was a saint from the beginning, but that after struggling in the mud, he ultimately chooses to stand up. Not because he is nobler than others, but because he understands more clearly than anyone the cost of pretending to be deaf and blind, the loss of one's soul. An unresolved death becomes the final thread weighing on him. She once brought a gold bracelet to Chi Li, asking him to help with a lawsuit, but he refused. Crushed by the scolding of family and friends, drowning in guilt and despair, she chose to end her life. This death was not accidental. It was the inevitable result of countless acts of pretending not to hear. Chi Li pretended not to hear, so he refused to help. The neighbors pretended not to hear, so they refused to provide evidence. Society pretended not to hear, so it ignored the suffering of the farmers. Everyone thought, this has nothing to do with me. Everyone waited for someone else to step forward. Everyone protected their own interests. And so, the unsolvable died. Her death is an accusation against all who remain silent. The most shocking scene in the film is when Chi Li publicly reveals that confidentiality agreement in court. He knows exactly what it means. It means he will be investigated. It means the career he worked so hard to build may collapse in an instant. It means he could lose everything. Yet he still does it. Because in the end, he understands that there are things more important than fame and profit. The real-life experiences of lawyer Zhang Qi, who inspired the film, add even more weight to the story. Zhang Qi, in reality, was also born to farming parents, also struggled to escape that identity, and also fought his way up from the bottom. Later, he chose to protect the rights of farmers. He created visual and written guides to help them understand banking and complex financial products. He designed phones with subtitles so farmers could communicate independently. He even took on cases for free, providing legal aid to those who could not afford a lawyer. These real details give the film a power that goes beyond the screen. It is not just an inspiring story, but a mirror, reflecting society's neglect of vulnerable groups, the imperfections of the legal aid system, and the deep indifference and selfishness within each of us. All of us can be Chi Li. After watching the film, many people will ask, if it were me, what would I choose? Honestly, most people's choices would not be very different. Under the torment of conscience, one may struggle, perhaps eventually change, perhaps not, because human nature is inherently complex. No one is born a hero. There is a line in the film that leaves a deep impression. Since I was young, people called my home the silent house, so I desperately tried to escape, to prove that I was not like you. But I realized that everything I have was gained by pretending to be foolish and deaf. This is Chi Li's confession, and also a reflection of all of us. Who has never abandoned themselves just to fit into society? Who has never gone against their conscience for personal gain? Who has never clearly seen their own cowardice in the face of injustice? We have all pretended to be foolish, pretended to be deaf, until one day we realize we can no longer hear the voice of our own conscience. What makes Chi Li valuable is not how noble he is, but that after falling, he is still willing to stand up. After compromising, he is still willing to resist. After remaining silent, he is still willing to speak. He tells us one thing. It is never too late to change, and conscience never dies, as long as you are still willing to listen to the voice within.